She was fired on the spot, not for stealing, not for being late, but for helping a hungry stranger. No one defended her. No one cared. She walked home that night thinking her life was over. But what she didn't know was this. The man she helped wasn't just anyone. And by the next morning, her life would change in a way she never imagined. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened. She had absolutely no idea that the man sitting alone in the corner booth would change her life forever. It was one of those exhausting evenings at a small roadside restaurant, the kind where time feels slow but work never stops. Plates clattered non-stop, the kitchen bell rang again and again, and impatient customers tapped their fingers on the tables. The air was filled with noise, pressure, and tired faces. In the middle of all this chaos stood Naomi, a hard-working black waitress who had been on her feet since early morning. She was barely surviving on minimum wage, living paycheck to paycheck, yet she still forced a polite smile for every customer. Naomi had already worked a double shift. Her legs ached, her back burned, and her eyes felt heavy. All she wanted was to finish her shift and go home. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed one customer who felt different from the rest. He sat alone in a quiet corner booth, not scrolling on his phone, not calling for service, not demanding attention. He was calm, polite, and unusually silent in a loud room. A dark hoodie covered most of his head, and a cap was pulled low over his face. He didn't look rich. He didn't look powerful. He didn't look like someone who would tip well. Because of that, other servers passed him by without a second glance. But Naomi didn't. Something about him felt human. She walked over, holding a coffee pot, and spoke gently. "Good evening, sir. Can I get you something?" The man looked up and offered a soft, respectful smile. "Just coffee is fine." "Thank you," he replied. Naomi nodded and poured the coffee, unaware that she was standing in front of a global legend. Because the quiet man she was serving was Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. As Naomi returned with the coffee, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. The man's hands were trembling slightly as he wrapped them around the warm cup. His shoulders were slumped, and there was a quiet heaviness in his eyes. He didn't just look tired, he looked emotionally worn down, like someone carrying a burden no one else could see. Before Naomi could say another word, the restaurant manager's sharp voice cut through the noise. "Hey, you there!" he shouted from across the room. "You can't sit here all night without ordering food." The entire restaurant went silent for a moment. Heads turned. The man slowly looked up, clearly uncomfortable. Naomi felt her heart drop. She stepped forward without thinking. "He's with me," she said softly but firmly. "I'll take care of his table." The manager walked over, his face tight with anger. "We don't run a charity here," he snapped. "Either he orders food, or he leaves. Right now." Naomi froze. She knew the rules. She knew she couldn't afford trouble. Her rent was due. Her job was all she had. But she looked at the man again, quiet, respectful, and humiliated, and made a choice that would change everything. Without saying a word, Naomi walked to the register, pulled out the few bills she had left, and paid for a sandwich. She placed it gently in front of him. "You don't have to do this," the man said, clearly surprised. "I know," Naomi replied softly. "But everyone deserves a warm meal." The moment didn't go unnoticed. The manager stormed back, his face red with rage. "Did you just pay for his food?" he demanded. "Yes," Naomi said honestly, her voice shaking. "That's it," he snapped. "You're fired. Effective immediately." In front of customers. No warning. No explanation. With trembling hands, Naomi untied her apron. Shame burned her face as she walked toward the door. Behind her, the man stood up. "Wait," he called. But Naomi was already gone, unaware that this single act of kindness had just set something incredible in motion. That night, Naomi cried herself to sleep. Her tiny apartment felt colder than usual. The silence was loud, broken only by the sound of passing cars outside and her quiet sobs. She sat on the edge of her bed, still wearing the same clothes from work, staring at the apron she no longer needed. Just hours earlier, she had a job. Now, she had nothing. Her mind raced with fear. How would she pay the rent? What would she buy for groceries? And worst of all, how would she take care of her little brother, who depended on her for everything? All of this, for helping a stranger. She lay back and stared at the ceiling, tears rolling down her cheeks, asking herself the same painful question again and again. Did I do the right thing? Doubt tried to convince her that kindness was a mistake, that being good in a hard world only brought pain. Eventually, exhaustion overtook her, and she fell asleep with a heavy heart. Miles away, in a quiet hotel room, Michael Jordan sat alone, unable to rest. He replayed the moment in the restaurant over and over in his mind. The way Naomi stepped forward, the courage in her voice, the way she paid from her own pocket without expecting anything in return. Michael had experienced fame, wealth, applause, and power. People usually treated him well because of who he was. But Naomi didn't know who he was. She didn't help him because he was famous. She didn't help him because she wanted recognition. She helped him because he was human. And that kind of kindness was rare. Michael picked up his phone. He made one call. Then another. By the time the sun began to rise, everything was set in motion. And while Naomi slept, believing her life had fallen apart, something extraordinary was being prepared for her. The next morning, Naomi nervously walked back to the restaurant to collect her final paycheck. She had no expectations, no hope, and no idea that today would be the day her life would change forever. As she opened the door, she froze. The restaurant was eerily quiet. Every staff member, from cooks to servers, was standing still, staring at her as if something monumental was about to happen. The manager, usually brash and loud, looked pale and stiff. But what caught Naomi's attention the most was the man sitting at the corner booth, the same quiet stranger from yesterday. Only this time, everything was different. Cameras were set up, a few lawyers in suits stood nearby, and even some executives she didn't recognize were watching intently. Naomi's heart raced, confused and scared. The manager's voice trembled as he spoke, almost like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Mr. Jordan, we didn't know," he stammered. The man, who Naomi now realized was Michael Jordan, stood up and walked slowly toward her. His presence was commanding, yet calm. He looked directly at Naomi and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You lost your job yesterday because you helped me." Naomi could only nod, speechless, unable to believe her ears. "So today," he continued, smiling warmly, "I want to tell you something." The room fell silent. Then Michael Jordan said something that made everyone gasp. "I just bought this restaurant." The manager's face turned ashen. He turned toward him, firm and unyielding. "You're fired." Then he looked back at Naomi. His voice softened. "And you," he said, "are now the general manager." Naomi's knees shook. Tears streamed down her face. She could barely speak, barely breathe. Her life, which had seemed shattered just one day ago, was suddenly filled with hope, opportunity, and respect. And Michael Jordan wasn't done yet. The day had just begun, and Naomi's future was about to be rewritten forever. Michael Jordan reached into his pocket and handed Naomi a check. Naomi's hands shook as she took it, unable to believe what she was seeing. The sum was more than she had ever earned in years. It was enough to pay her rent, her bills, and even her little brother's school fees for years to come. But the gift didn't stop there. Michael leaned closer and spoke sincerely. "I also want to pay for your education," he said. "No conditions. No cameras. No publicity. Just a chance to grow, because your kindness reminded me why I started playing basketball, to inspire, not to dominate." Naomi felt tears welling up again, this time for a different reason. She didn't just gain a job that day, she gained confidence, dignity, and a future she hadn't dared to imagine. Every fear, every worry, every tear from the previous night seemed to melt away. And Michael Jordan gained something too. He had been reminded that real greatness isn't measured in trophies, championships, or wealth. It's measured by how we treat those who can do nothing for us, by the compassion we show to strangers, by the humanity we refuse to ignore. From that day forward, Naomi ran the restaurant with a new spirit. She treated every customer with respect, kindness, and warmth, regardless of how they looked, what they wore, or what they could offer. The restaurant became a place where everyone felt seen and valued. Because of one small act of courage and generosity, 2 lives were forever changed. Naomi's story is a reminder to all of us. Sometimes, the simplest act of kindness, helping someone when no one is watching, can create miracles we never imagined. One moment, one choice, one heart, and the world is transformed.